All right. Hello, hearing you. All right. Thanks, folks. Well, thanks for joining us. This is another webinar organized by ICT Pro TT, a committee of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce of Trinidad and Tobago. Our aim is to help improve the national ICT capabilities through engagement and partnership with people, businesses, and government. In addition to our involvement with the business community and various government committees, we organize these webinars and other networking events to help bring together the various IT and business stakeholders. In line with these objectives, today's webinar is aimed at helping IT professionals adjust to the changes in the industry, namely the shift from being limited to a back office role to being involved in strategic planning and business development. So our presenter today is Roger St-Hilaire, an ICT strategy and governance specialist with over 25 years of experience in information systems design, development, implementation, and training. He will be sharing with us some of his experience and provide advice on the topic. We're going to have an open Q&A session at the end of his presentation. So feel free in the meantime, if you have any questions, to leave them on the YouTube chat or email them to us at ictprott@gmail.com. And with that, thank you, Roger, for being with us today, and please take it away.
All right. Thanks a lot for for inviting me. Really glad to be here, and just be able to share with you guys some stuff happening. I mean, Trinidad is the land of my birth, and hopelessly a 150% VAT inclusive. Okay, so let's get moving here, straight in. The role of IT from back office to business enabler. IT has been, bandied about being many things over the years, and over the next few moments, the next 45 minutes, we're going to be looking at what does that really look like in terms of current experience, the current environment. So just a little bit about me. I like cycling, so you'll see a few cycling references. I've been in IT for, as Eddie said, again, thank you, Eddie, for this opportunity to just share with our fellow countrymen. I have been in IT and women, no offense if there are any women on board, countrymen was used in a generic sense, right? Over the last 25 years, seen many things. I've worked with a number of international organizations, the UN being one of them, and in various areas of the UN, UN ECLAC, UN EP, UN DP. The EP would be the environmental program, DP would be the development program. I've done various things: information systems design, development, implementation. In fact, we at ECLAC built one of the first knowledge management systems and the first digital library system for the Caribbean. Myself and a friend of mine called Dale Alexander. So we've been having fun for a number of years in that space. Again, multinational environments. I have some key principles which you would see through going through, in these different environments. There are a number of things I found that have continued to just hold true, and it is strategy finds its legs in operations. Regardless of what you're doing or what you think that you want the organization to do, if you can't operationalize that thought, the organization goes nowhere. So it's great to have wonderful ideas about IT, about how it can be used and stuff like that. But these ideas got to be grounded in execution, being able to turn it into a product that is viable for the organization's direction and growing and so on. The vision that the organization has set for itself. Move that now, leverage the IT context or tools and turn it into real something that can help the organization. So strategy definitely finds its legs in operations because it's the operational components that actually deliver on what's going on with the organization. Is always about the people. What people would like to think or what they would like to put forward, it is still always about the people, and it is people, either the individual person who's running the organization or the little stakeholder group where they're just like, well, we're doing this for us, or if it's the stakeholders, and stakeholders come in many forms and go across several layers. They are your staff, they are your actual stakeholders that are putting money into the company, they are stakeholders that are your clients, right across the board in any person who is interacting with your organization, including vendors, regulatory bodies, etc. They all have a stake in your organization, so therefore they are stakeholder. They want the organization to progress, to go forward, whether it is to make more money for them, whether it is to continue providing a product that they use in terms of your clients, whether it's to continue just being an organization so that as a worker you are able to carry home a check and take care of your family. So it is always about the people, and once you keep that in mind, you recognize that the person on the other side of the desk is a person, human being, and your negotiation and your engagement takes on a different flavor. This becomes very important when you're leading an organization or attempting to engage someone else, another position within the organization, usually within the C-suite, or even in another department, to be able to move things forward, to be able to leverage the expertise that's in the organization. So it's always about the people. Strategy finds its legs in operations. Good ideas, to move from idea to reality, it needs to pass through some operational components. So in biking, you have two things. You have these small little, the little gears at the back of the bike, and this is more on a road bike, right? That you can shift and adjust to the environment. Really, that helps you find those fine adjustments that you can power up or power down. You're able to climb a hill a little better, increase your speed, and so on. At the front of the bike, where the crank is, you have two main large gears. That's your main driving force. So the driving force needs some fine tuning applicable in the environment, right? And this is the same thing with IT. You may have this great idea, this great driving force that's saying, well, these bunch of great things we can do, but it must be fine tuned to match the environment. So that's where your small gears come in. That's a number of operational components. Is this really meeting the needs of the environment, your choice of software, your choice of interface, etc. Right? All this is great, but you really can't go anywhere if you have a flat tire. And that's the bottom line. Can I turn this into something that is really operational, that really, where they say the rubber hits the road, where the proverbial rubber hits the road? Can I turn this into something that the organization can see as value? Organization go forward, right? And that's really what this whole thing is about. We do needs to come down to being able to get that rubber to hit the road and move forward, right? So let's now go have some fun and dive into what really is the changing role of IT and your CIO and so on. All right, feel free at any point, as you have a question. I mean, while we're not going to stop the presentation and so on, but do type your questions into the chat box. Eddie will take note of those. He'll pass them on to me so that we'd be able to then have that, we'd be able to treat with those issues as we go out. All right, and do question and answer section. All right, so the earlier you get your question in, the more likely you'll get answered at the end of the session. Okay, so let's look at old IT. Traditionally, IT did a number of things. They're not very different now. It was all about value and cost. How fast is it going to take to put in these new bunch of servers and stuff like that. It was about keeping IT running because we have stuff going on. I need to access my email, or I need to access, the data that helps us make these bunch of decisions, right? It's about handling, managing complexity. We have different vendors, we have different suppliers, how do we get all these things to work together and stuff like that. That, used to come up were security. I mean, that has been gaining a lot of traction over the last few years, within the last 10, in particularly within the last 5 more so. So you have a number of cybersecurity certifications that are now abreast, that are now out, and that really help fine-tune that security component. So it's beyond the just well, my password is this, and not people sharing passwords, because you want to get to this particular thing. Oh yeah, I have the password for that thing, so let's look, this is the password so you could get the document or whatever. So this is becoming way more controlled, way more concerning. In the old world, or the old version of IT, these things were important, yes, important, but it was seen as just, IT is that thing that functions in the back there that everybody kind of uses, and we're not too clear or sure about. Then you had, in terms of aligning IT with the business, yeah, but kind of like, we'll tell you all what it is we need and stuff like that. IT wasn't really sitting at the table, but rather a managed external component, sort of like fleet management. You would kind of like, okay, so we have to get trucks to move our stuff to and fro. We really don't care what trucks it is. We're just interested in trucks moving it. And we'll complain about the amount of money we're spending in gas and the maintenance and trucks and all those things. But we want the stuff to move faster than it moved last week. We want to put more stuff on those trucks, and we want to, get the products out. So yeah, when they come, why does you spending so much money in transport? Can't you do this with less money and stuff like that? And IT was kind of treated very much like that. It wasn't seen as a strategic partner. Okay, and then of course you had the regulatory compliance that kind of hung around all this, that started happening with the various breaches that happened over the years. You have things that happened at WorldCom, you had the Enron fiasco, you had a number of things that have been going on that now have a whole bunch of regulations around the entire IT space. So old IT kind of was more in the back, kind of, yeah, it's a necessary evil. We have to do this thing. Everybody has a local area network, so we should do that. They have a website, so we should do that. So it wasn't really seen beyond some other tool. And not that IT is not a tool, but it wasn't seen beyond that. Let's look at new IT now. New IT really looks at things differently. And the idea behind IT now, it is really to see IT as empowering the business. Very different to what it was thought to be before. Before it was a necessary evil. We do this simply because we have to. If I didn't have to deal with those IT fellas, I'd be really, really happy. But I got to, so I guess, okay, I will. It's more moving from just that back end kind of thing to now a real partner within the organization. For this, some of which we look at here, it means just an hour that we have. It's not going to be completely exhaustive. But we're going to touch on some of those things. But the background concept I want you to keep in the back of your mind is that IT is now about empowering the business. And that fundamental shift creates a number of things. So in terms of IT, one of the things that helped move that empowerment view is the idea that, you know, IT became pervasive. It was in and through everything. I mean, the phones that we carry around in our pockets now are way more powerful than some of the PCs that we had, you know, 10, 15 years ago. I run presentations from my phone if I need to. It's, you know, it's just that the phone is that powerful, right? So you're carrying around your desk with you, where your desktop with you wherever you go now, in a device that fits in your pocket. So IT has become very much like salt. We in everything. And the truth is, when you look at salt, so let's look at salt. Salt has, you know, you must put a little salt in the food so that it could taste good, right? Too much, we'll get sick. So for some organizations, what you've seen is that they have all kinds of technology in the organization. The organization is still not growing. And the reason for that is that they have too much technology that's not relevant to the organization. So the organization is literally sick of the amount of IT that is in it. The same thing, you got to put salt according to the kind of food that you're cooking. Yes, I like food too. So you got to put the amount of salt according to the kind of food that you're cooking. You can't put a tablespoon of salt in various things, or a teaspoon even. Sometimes it's just a dash. In other cases, you may need a little more, right? So it must be relevant to the organization. Extreme of that, where it's too little, you can't eat the food. It doesn't taste good. It's not palatable. So the nutrients that you should be getting from the food, it's not there. You can't get it because you can't get it into your mouth. So the same thing now in terms of the business, the nutrients that your clients should be receiving from using your services, they can't, because they can't get access to the services. The services take way too long. It's not coming in the right format. You know, there are a number of challenges around that. So this speaks to the idea of appropriateness. So not IT for IT's sake, but IT that empowers the business. So the business is still at the forefront, only that the conversation now is happening in a very different context. Not the business saying, well, you know, you do this bunch of things, but rather more of a collaborative engagement that then creates a flavorful pot that can be eaten by your shareholders and your stakeholders, much to their merriment. So let's look at the CIO. The CIO is seen as the chef, right? So in this new context, whereas the CIO was more, it was called CIO, but not quite as at the same level as, like, for instance, the CFO and the other C-level staff. But now the CIO is really to look at a number of things here. So one, the CIO is able to work across departments. So before, when IT was kind of like a siloed operation, as I said, truthfully, like salt in everything, every single department within the organization is touched by IT now. Your trucks, there's logistics software that could run on the trucks to tell you how fast it's going, where it is at. You know, what's the load on the truck even in extreme circumstances and so on. Where its location, you know, how long it's spent at that location and stuff like that. So, you know, you got to work across the different departments. There's no department that is untouched by IT. So the ability now for the CIO, who is seen now as the chef, he has to work across those departments with a certain amount of product and service specific strategic capability. And what do I mean by that? I mean that with he has to be able to first know the product that the organization is delivering, or that department is delivering. And it doesn't mean that you have to go and learn everything in detail, but have a real appreciation for what is going on and a desire to learn what that department is doing, then apply your IT knowledge and technical expertise to that. At the CIO level, it's more at a macro level, being able to see and come up with the ideas that will help them, and then you push that down in your operational teams and guide the teams accordingly. You're working with your teams, your internal IT teams, and also with the organizational teams. Okay? Also a number of things. Collaborative interpersonal skills. The IT person is now, especially like the CIO, is now no longer that manipulates things that the rest of the world doesn't understand. CIO is now the person who, to a certain extent, the web media, understands the impact of when your business does a number of things and puts it out in the media, or your clients ask for certain things, understands when marketing is asking for various things, and being able to have that discussion across the board with each of them in an intelligent manner. So his interpersonal skills got to be really sharp to be able to have conversations and not, as it were, space of collaboration rather than intimidation of, well, we're the IT people, we know what's going on, and what you're saying there is just impossible and stupid. It's not that. You got to be able to collaborate and listen. So the analytical skills now become a really, really key tool, being able to listen to what's going on in the business and analyze accordingly. Then, of course, you got to see IT as a tool for getting the business done. So there's a big push now toward innovation capability of your CIO. Or was seen as just to run the IT department, keep the IT going and stuff like that, right? And you had various permeations, the CIO, CTO, and various other things, the Chief Technical Officer, Chief Information Officer, and there are various permutations and stuff around those. But that's kind of what's been happening. The push now is to that person needs to be innovative. They need to be able to see IT as a tool that would get the business to a point of really better delivery. Okay? So with that, they become now a chef that is taking the various ingredients, and those would be IT ingredients, and turning it into a palatable meal that can be delivered. Some of the other things that the CIO needs to be looking at, things like cybersecurity, right? And this, in a broad sense, these are two broad areas that we just lay out here. And the broad brushstroke is that, one, you're looking at defending the organization, right? So it's cybersecurity, but in many cases, it's now across the board. So for instance, there are a number of certifications that deal with that for cybersecurity, but those that deal with security on a whole. And if you go through one of those certifications or that process, what you tend to see is that security is not just the technology you're securing. You're actually looking at the environment that the technology exists in. You look at the various vulnerabilities of the organization as a whole, things like your physical vulnerability, your personal vulnerability. What is the information that your individuals go and come with? What do they leave with? What are the conversations they're having, right? So, and a number of those things aren't really controlled by IT. So in defending the organization, part of it is to have the conversations with the other groups, for instance, HR and finance, and even the other business development areas, have the conversations with them in terms of the use of various technology tools and social media and stuff like that. So things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn even, all of which I'm sure that all of us use. What then happens is that, inadvertently you strike up this conversation on Facebook that then says what you're doing within an organization and so on, and that then gets spilled out. could be misinterpreted or whatever, and it now becomes a problem for the organization. Right? So the cybersecurity in terms of defending the organization goes beyond just securing the information systems, but rather dealing with the people that use those systems. As I said earlier, it's always about the people that use those systems and how they use it. Securing a system, I know I'm going to put myself out on a limb here, but securing a system is relatively easy. There are various parameters that you follow, various steps, but you can technically secure the system. Simple, great. The issue is usually not whether or not the system is secure or can be secure. I know you have patch issues and stuff like that. That could be a challenge. But generally, the technological component is not the one that fails. Generally, what fails is the social engineering, which is a human component. See, we're back at the people. And what does this then tell us? It tells us that we need to work along with others in the C-suite, at the C-suite level, to be able to then have that conversation going forward. So things that, and in terms of social media and so on, promoting the organization, helping the organization put its best foot forward. So again, you're working along with PR and so on, and the various technology channels that this promotion will take place via. So you got to leverage a team. There's technical expertise, deep technical expertise within the organization, within a number of spaces within an organization. And the idea is that for each person that's there, there's an opportunity to utilize that skill, whether it be HR, finance, whatever department that is actually being used for the organization. So in each, that makes up the organization, you've got to be able to leverage the teams. You've got to interact at a certain level to be able to do that. Your key team members would be people like the CEO, HR, finance, your business units, business process owners. Leverage the understanding that they have of the organization, right? HR, the kind of people that they hire, what's the culture of the organization? That culture informs your security posture and informs the kinds of tools that would work or not work within an organization. One of the challenges that we met, I was doing some work with one of those security arms of the US government, let's put it that way. And the challenge was the levels of security that were being implemented within the organization. Now, there were certain areas that needed to be really, really secure. Other areas didn't need to be that secure because public, I wouldn't say quite public access, but it's a different level of security. So the challenge was then to break down the levels of security required based on the personnel and what they are doing and what they needed to do to execute their job. So within that, you realize that the conversation had to happen with the C-level, which would be the decision-making level of the organization, directioning and visioning level of the organization, the CEO. It had to happen with HR, personnel management, and so on. So you'd be clear on what those job descriptions are, organizational structure, et cetera, et cetera. Finance, in terms of how much money are we going to spend to secure? What are those things that we are attempting to secure, and how do we secure it? And can we justify the spend in this particular area based on what can be lost, or what is the potential loss or potential replacement cost of this particular item if it is lost? And then, of course, with the business units and business process owners in terms of, okay, how do you actually do your job? How do you do your job? What do we do to, how can we help you do your job? And in a real sense, IT is one of those fun things that it helps everything move faster. Everything. Good, bad, or indifferent. If you have a good process, it will make the process run a lot faster, and stuff like that. It will work, and we get exponential growth. If you've got a bad process, it will make that run a lot faster, and we'll have exponential failure. Right. So either way, many cases, IT is really, I mean, I think, you know, in terms of the C-level staff, is understanding that IT is not to blame, although IT gets blamed for a number of things, but it's really to understand that, okay, and even if you are in the position of the one being blamed, be able to see through that, have a thick skin, be skilled in your interpersonal discussions so that you're able to then get to what is the root issue that failed, and then treat with that matter. So these, what I'm saying is across the board, you got to be able to have the conversation with your various team members, particularly in HR, finance, because IT costs money, right? But finance also to show so that when you put this in, you can talk to return on investment for a particular item, okay? So it's what I call my walk the halls principle. You got to walk the halls, got to have the conversations. Lots of things have happened outside of specific meetings, outside of formalized structured environments to have a conversation and so on. It happens because these people have walked the halls. In other words, they've built relationships. I was just in a meeting prior to this one, and you know, a number of deals, while this was a commercial thing, one of the major deals got closed because one of the guys knew the guy. So he had a conversation and say, look, listen, we want to come and show you how you can save X amount. He said, really? You guys could do that? So the conversation started, right? Many other cases, just being nice to the other people within the organization allows you to then sit at that desk and really find out what's going on and then solve the root cause. In IT, we're familiar with dealing with root cause analysis and so on, especially if you have an ITIL background. You got to get down to root cause so that we could actually solve it and deliver proper service. So those things are critical. Walk the halls, build the relationships, you get the actual information, find out what is actually going wrong, then you can treat with it. And in many cases, it may be a conversation, it may be a process adjustment. It may not necessarily be new technology that you need to put to it. It may be technology that you already have within the organization that just needs to be used in a different way. So walk the halls. So as we're rounding up, coming down here, there are a number of formalized structures that, that the organization should have or mimic or have pieces like in place for the role of IT as a business enabler to really take root. Now, the driving force in terms of the CIO and his interaction is very key, and the rest of your IT personnel is very key, that they actually have conversations with people and so on, and build friendships across the various departments. But those friendships will then work in putting these committees together so that you can have some real benefit and real structured application of the principles that I laid out earlier. So some of those would be your strategy committees, usually the IT executive, and you have maybe a strategy committee within the organization that then helps in terms of directioning for the organization. IT needs to have a voice at that table, and that committee is really to set up the guiding the organization strategically forward based on what the organization's mission and vision and goals, what they said those the mission, vision, and goals are. So having IT at that early conversation while those things are either being formed or being decided, IT could then be part of that conversation that helps change how this is viewed, that helps adjust how about getting a goal. So in many cases, I've been at discussions. So for instance, one of the things I did while I was at UNDP, they wanted, they were thinking about tracking all this information that comes through UNDP and they wanted to be able to leverage that information. And back in the day, you know, it was like, okay, so we want a database to do this. Because in essence, yeah, they were talking about a database. The reality is, after analysis, because I ended up writing this solution myself. Oh, okay. Oops, sorry about that. Let's go back. Right, there we are. Yeah, the idea was that, hey, look, what you want is to be able to, you know, again, through root cause analysis, what you want to be able to do is to leverage the information that you already have within the organization and be able to go back and review that with questions that you've answered before. The end result was an application that's actually built on Microsoft Exchange that helps solve their issues, that tied into their email, tied into the public folders, did a lot of data gathering, and then spit out results in Excel. In essence, yes, we did create a database for them, only that we didn't go and write it in SQL. We actually leveraged the technology that was already there. Most of the stuff was coming through Microsoft Exchange anyway, so we leveraged the Exchange storage. So in essence, it became the database of the info that they wanted. So having that conversation at the strategic level allowed us to then really look at a real solution that would help them. The solution we gave them then incorporated workflow and a bunch of other things in it, so it actually helped the organization move forward. You have your project and program steering committees. Those are committees that deal with projects within the organization, combined projects, and I say program because many projects don't happen in isolation. They usually affect other projects and are usually operating under some larger program of development for the organization. And key to all of this is your enterprise risk committee. You gotta deal with risk. Change in an environment creates risk. You want to be able to quantify that at an enterprise level, which will then enable us now as IT folk to really, you know, look at, okay, so what is the risk we are alleviating? You know, it gives you a clearer conversation in terms of direction forward for the organization. So you're back to food again. If, you know, you have several courses that happen, right? So you may have your appetizer, in which case you walk the halls, you find out what's going on. You then have your main course, and then you have your dessert. So your main course would be that actual change that you've created with this, whatever tools that you may have used or so on. What is the actual change that's going to be created? And your dessert would then be, what's the follow-up? I mean, maintenance and a number of things like that. So you realize that, you know, it's a complete engagement. It's not just the front end where we've done this great thing, but we got to maintain it thereafter. So you got to look at it. That's really where you start looking at your return on investment. What's the investment that needs to be made? And what are the running costs after we've made that investment? So it's really, in a real sense, it's looking at the whole, you know, bringing all the pieces together. So you look at the whole thing, okay? One of the common truths in this is that people connect when they have a common purpose. And again, you're back at the C-suite level. If you have the conversation with them, they would realize that we're not at variance with you. They think, for instance, most of the times finance is looked at the people who do not want us to get anything done and want to get it done for free, right? Having a conversation with finance helps finance then understand that we're all actually trying to do the same thing for the organization. Having a conversation with the various departments, the same thing applies, right? So the idea is to connect and create a common purpose, okay? So in terms of doing that, how do we create that common purpose? How do we create that culture? You ask yourself, why? Well, on a personal level, why am I here in this organization? But more so in terms of the organization, what is the organization about? Why does this business exist? Why is IT part of the business? I've worked with organizations where after I've done the evaluation, I said, really and truly, you don't need the IT department, outsource the whole thing. Because it's not core to their delivery. We're using IT as a bunch of services. That is what they would have continued to do. So the spend in terms of IT could have gone down in terms of overhead and managing and bringing staff on board and owning all this set of equipment and stuff like that. And the better solution for them, because IT wasn't a core of their delivery, we're able to then outsource the entire IT outfit and negotiate for specific services. Not in that order, we organize these specific services before and then outsource the whole thing. So we were clear on what it is you needed, and then treat dismantling and outsourcing and building the contracts to take over the various spaces. So why is IT part of the business is a real question that needs to be asked. The what are we doing as a business? So you got to be clear on what the business is doing. So you ask why it is it's doing these things, why does it exist? And then what is it doing as a business, right? We build widgets, whatever that is, right? And then, of course, the other question is, what is IT doing to enable and extend the business? Because that's IT's singular purpose. IT doesn't exist for anything else. IT exists as a function of needing to enable and extend the business. Then you look at how. Okay, what do we do, and how do we do what we do, and how does IT then enable and extend the business? How does IT then approach that? Okay. Now, ISACA has a nice statement that has been around for the last 40 years, because ISACA has been around for 40 plus years, right? Trust in and value from information systems, right? And in a real sense, every CIO is looking at trying to create that environment, create trust. You create trust by having a common purpose and people recognizing that you are in that same common purpose with them. So in doing that, all the components that we talked to earlier, you're able to then create that trust environment that allows you to really enable and extend the organization. So a viable case for IT, for anything that you're doing within the organization, this is what it starts to look like. The business benefits that are going to be targeted. What are the specific business benefits you are going to address that are going to be useful for the organization? What's this? Okay, the business changes needed to create the envisioned value. What is the value proposition? Then, of course, the investments needed. What are those investments? And of course, the ongoing IT and business costs. In a number of cases, we don't do that in terms of when you're presenting whatever to the organization. We just like, well, we want to do this great thing. We want to get involved in social media. We want to create this new website that has this e-commerce thing attached to it, or has these other things that the customers can do, right? You gotta be clear on what the spend is for that. What are the expected benefits? So you're having discussions again back with finance. What is the return on investment? What's the throughput that you're trying to change? How is this technology going to then impact those bunch of things, those bunch of markers, those key performance indicators for whether it be marketing, sales, or whichever area within the organization? What are the risks that we want to do? Their roles, responsibilities, accountabilities. How, who's doing what, where, who's signing off on what, who is going to be accountable for these things getting done, who's doing the actual work, those who are responsible. Then, of course, how is the investment and value creation will be monitored through the economic life cycle of whatever you're putting in place, right? How are you going to then monitor that it is still creating value throughout the projected life cycle of 3 years or however long? So these things are really where IT exists now today. And a number of the things raised in terms of really creating that space for the CIO to operate and where the CIO operates from, that is really where where IT is now. It's no longer the back office, it's now front office, it's now actually enabling the organization to move forward, and it's creating that space for having that conversation. All right, so this is just a little bit about us in terms of the organization that I run. I own Empowering Human Endeavor, Consulting, Engagement, and Optimization. We build bridges across challenges. For your time, and now I'll switch back to Eddie so that you guys will have, you know, a good bit of time that we could actually treat with some of the questions that have been raised.
Thanks, Roger, for the presentation. Actually, I sent you some of the questions that were asked while you were presenting. I don't know if you're seeing them.
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, you could just pick them one by one and address them.
Okay, so, all right, so the first one, let me scroll back here. All right, so the first question I'm seeing here, how do ICT personnel transfer skills to show business value? Well, if we go back, let me go back a slide, and really the viable business, the case for business IT, the case for IT on the previous slide is really how you transfer your skills to show business value. You got to really, and that's why I was emphasizing, you know, you walk the halls, you got to find out what is the issue that you're trying to solve, right? Now, IT skills are very specific in terms of dealing with certain types of technology. What you need to look at is, okay, how is that going to help them do their job better? How is it going to change their job for the better? And what does better mean for that organization? So that's one of the ways that you really transfer the skills to show business value. It's got to be about the people in the business and what are the challenges that they face and how you can address them. Okay, so I've got vendors involved all over my IT shop in various projects and managed services. How do I reduce my, whoa, okay, cool. So the question is, I've got vendors involved all over my IT shop on various projects and managed services. How do I reduce my risk exposure with these guys? Okay. First thing is that, okay, so in terms of any engagement, if you operate with a planned structure, you gotta, and unfortunately I know in many environments, you don't get to plan. You're really reacting to a number of things going on. But it's really from the planning end that you're able to actually begin to address that multiple vendors inside there. With planning out what IT is actually going to achieve, the Balanced Scorecard actually helps with that in terms of the organization. There are a number of frameworks that support and help with that. Things like TOGAF and COBIT would help you through the kind of viewing, and of course the governance around that. Then gives you the structure to be able to then say these are the bunch of services that we need to address, and then of course your SLA, which is your agreement, your service level agreement that you're having with them, or your contractual agreement that you're making with these managed services vendors. That then, from the governance end, you're able to look at what is the value, and then what your personnel can do, what your support services are going to be doing, and then structure it that way. Clearly, your company has quite a bit of money, because if you have a bunch of them running around and it's stressing you out, you can solve things with throwing money at it, but you don't solve the root cause by that. So look through, see what's going on, do your planning forward, and then decide what services and what's the value they bring to it. Okay. Next question is, what is the best way to prepare myself for the role of CIO? Yeah, the best way to prepare yourself for the role of CIO is to, now there are a number of courses that actually help technical end, which is great. And for most people, they already have the technical skill. They're in programming, or they do database management, or they do some of the other key skills, risk management, auditing, and so on, stuff like that. What you got to do is to get business skill, because the CIO's job is more of a business job than it is an IT job, right? And the reason why I say this is because you got to understand the business to deliver proper IT. If you don't understand the business, then you can't have the conversation in language that the rest of the C staff can actually process. You'd be doing what we call tech speak. The other side of that is why I said if you have a technical background, it's great, but get the business piece working, because you can talk to the rest of the tech guys and they will all get it. Because we all tech guys, but you have to be able to do the business speak. So that's one of the key things in terms of preparing for the role of CIO. What advice would you give to someone wanting to make this career shift? Well, that's the same thing. Start understanding the business. Look at innovation. Look at what some great CIOs have done. Look at what the impact that IT makes for some organizations. And you'd see what that difference is. Once you get that, it then you're on a good path. Okay. Any recommendation for training to prepare for this modern new path? Okay. Leaders to follow local, regional, and internationally. Okay. So CIO, as I said, the CIO is a business job. It is more business than it is IT. If you want to stick in a hardcore IT, you'd have to get to an organization that is still hardcore IT. Look at how the business operates and go with it from there. There are a number of CIOs, I can't remember their names offhand, because I'm not a big names guy. I tend to look at what they've done. And for each of them that have been really successful, they understood what's the question that what the business was asking, right? And then they understood what's the question the customers were asking of the business, the stakeholders. In understanding those two, they crafted a technology infrastructure that would answer the questions appropriately. And that's really how you can do it. And it's unique for each and every person, because every person has a different skill set. There are some people that are great at certain things, right? For instance, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is actually a really, really good tech guy. He's hardcore tech. He ran the organization for a number of years, but he then gave it up because he was hardcore tech. He went back and do technology. Right? He was the guy who developed Visual Basic and some of the other things, right? He left running the company. So it's different for different people, and you gotta accept that. Jobs was also Wozniak was more technical than he was, but Steve Jobs understood the business. He understood the business. He understood how to connect to people. He understood what people needed, even though they didn't understand it themselves, right? But you understood that. So understand what your niche is, and then you can push forward, maximizing your own skill set, right? The way I would run a company is very different from how even some of my close friends would run companies, because our skill sets are different. And what you got to do is to maximize your skill set. And that is your unique contribution to whatever post you go into. So, okay, recommendation for training. Okay, we went through recommendation for training. As an SME, small, having outsourced IT functions. If my vendor is more technical, what can I reference to ensure the business goals are met by IT, considering I may not understand the technical elements? Okay, so I would say get yourself a decent consultant, right? But there's some reading that you can do, and this is across the board. You can actually subscribe to CIO magazine, which really is it's a good magazine. I have a few friends that write for it, but the CIO magazine really breaks down, what's the business aspect, what are the questions that need to be asked of the vendors, and what are the what are the things that you need in terms of technology for your company. So that would be, and it's an online magazine, you can subscribe to it. Some of the stuff is free. There's other stuff you can pay for. I don't think it's too expensive. I think I've been subscribing to them for so long that I don't even remember what the fees are. I think by this time I've never actually paid. They had some stuff on some years ago, but okay. So that is really, even though you may not understand the technical elements, what you got to do is to be clear on what your business elements are. And what you want to know is that he will solve those things in the most reasonable fashion. So lay out what your business elements are. If he does text speak right through and you can't understand what he's saying, you need another vendor. He's not meeting your need, right? And in a real sense, that's one of the challenges. They come to blurt a lot of text speak. It sounds nice and stuff like that. Don't get blurred with that. Go back and ask, well, okay, so this is the business issue I want to address. Is this going to address that? And how is it going to address that? So you're not going to get into the text speak because that's not your space. Your space is your business needs to run, and these are your key parameters. So be clear on that. And once you're clear on that, have them speak to those things. And then build parameters that you will understand in terms of when they hit this metric, that metric, I know they have done what it is I've asked them to do. All right. I think that's all the questions we have for now. We're all about we have about 2 minutes. Eddie, you want to say anything? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, thanks for the answers to those questions. I think you pretty much nailed the nail on the head. I'm not seeing anything right now. We haven't received any more questions, so I think it would be right time to wrap up.
Okay.
And if you could do me a favor and put on the last slide that you have there.
Yep, sure will do. Okay, well, this is my contact information. So I guess, well, you could just get onto Eddie. You go look at the site, reshglobal.com. And of course, Roger at Resh Global. Right. Again, thank you guys for coming on and listening and so on. And for the questions, really good questions. Again, so ICT Pro TT, Eddie, it's yours.
Thanks again, Roger. I also want to thank the participants today, and hope that you all enjoy this webinar. And it will help you and your organization adjust to the changes in the role of IT. I think the presentation was very appropriate and well done. That presentation is going to be saved on YouTube and will be publicly available for anyone to view in the future. So please feel free to share that information. And I want to repeat as well, Roger has left his contact information in the presentation, so feel free to reach out to him if you need any particular help for yourself or for your business. I want to invite you to stay tuned for our next webinar, which is scheduled for November 7th on the topic of generating staff buy-in for IT integration. So thanks again to everyone who participated today, and stay tuned for more from ICT Pro TT. Have a good day.
All right, super.